If you're an attorney in the pursuit of a successful law practice, fulfilling career, and the life of your dreams, this podcast has it all. Behind the Bench gives you great tools to overcome the unique challenges you face every day as a law firm owner. Welcome to Behind the Bench podcast with your host, Josh Konigsberg, author, partner, and co-founder of Law Firm Marketing Pros and lifelong entrepreneur.
IntakeAcademy.com, 30 years now. It's amazing. It goes by so fast. And the main thing we focus on is conversion. It's all things conversion, but to get there, there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen, like, relationships and communications and empathy and sales and mindset and all of that. So that's what we focus on. And we work with intake specialists and attorneys primarily. We do other areas in the law firm because they all focus on the same principles. It's just different roles, but primarily it's attorneys and intake specialists.
Okay, so and before I forget, I'll probably do this a couple times. Your book, Law Firm Conversions, pretty much lays out exactly what you do. Tremendous book. I highly recommend it, and it's well worth the read. In terms of the things that you'll learn that you're not doing, or things that you might be doing wrong as a law firm.
Right, exactly. Right.
So tell us how long I said 30 years, but tell us a little bit more about your businesses and the markets that you serve. Is it one specific niche in law or any type of law firm?
Yeah, it's all types of law firms. Doesn't matter the practice area or the size or where it's located. So,
okay.
Primarily it seems to lean more towards personal injury, but any kind of law practice we basically worked with.
Okay, so what I've learned is, and it's really, really important, and I actually remind our clients of this, that you have to remember when someone's calling a law firm, oftentimes it's the first time they've ever talked to a law firm, and they're scared and they don't know what to expect. They don't know how much money it's going to cost. They're afraid they might be taken advantage of because they don't have any knowledge. I analogize it to when the air conditioning repairman comes to my house. I don't know if I need a Freon recharge or if I need an entire new air conditioning unit, right? We're basically ignorant. So the other piece of that is oftentimes when they are contacting a law firm, for most types of law, there's some type of an event or crisis that's triggered the communication, whether that's for criminal defense, a DUI situation, something like that, family law, where there's been usually in family law, divorce, the relationship reaches what I'll call a tipping point, right? Or somebody's been in an auto accident. So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of how the law firm might want to handle an incoming call when there is someone. You talk about empathy in the book, and I love the way you laid it out. So can you describe a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah. So when it comes to your mindset for handling these calls, you really want to train and coach your team to focus on the person and kind of like what you're talking about, the humanizing part of the relationship, what they're going through. And the only way you can really know that is to ask them. And so they might say, yeah, I'm calling because I had a DUI, or I'm calling because I have charges for sexual assault, or I'm calling because I had an accident, yesterday or last week or a month, whatever it is. What you want to do is train your team to find out what the emotional pain is of that person.
Okay.
So ask questions, yeah, and then say, what is it that got you to give us a call today about? And then plug in what it was that they said they called for.
Okay. And so you're training the staff on how to be more empathetic with the person's situation. You talk about reiterating in the book, you talk about reiterating the pain point with them, personalizing the conversation. Can you give us an example of what a call might look like? So if I were to call in and say, not to get too personal, but hey, I walked in and my wife was in bed with another man, and I want to get, I need to talk to someone to get a divorce.
Yeah. Okay. So, the first thing that you want to do is, okay, so first off, Mrs. Smith, I just want to tell you, my name is Chris Mullins. I'm an intake specialist here at ABC Law Firm, and you made the right decision giving us a call today. We get calls like this all the time, and it sounds like to me that this is probably a very difficult moment for you. I want you to know you're in good hands with me right now.
Oh my God, that is tremendous. Just rolls right off your tongue like you've been doing it for 30 years.
Oh no.
That was tremendous because what you did was you made me feel like, hey, I'm not alone, and that you have experience. And yes, it is a difficult time for me, right?
Yeah, but the other thing too, so in addition to what you said, is with this particular example that you gave, which is a very sensitive situation,
Sure.
I helped you to feel like even bigger than you're not alone, because there's a lot of shame with something like that. And who wants to say it out loud, right? So when I say it out loud back to you and you don't even know me, it can help you to feel like, okay, I'm okay. I'm really okay. This person said it, right?
Right.
So that can help build that relationship of trust and intimacy that is really important.
So you're training the staff to do this, and you do this with role play in the training, right?
Role playing, and even bigger and better than that, listening to call recordings.
Okay.
So that is like the biggest, most important thing to happen to do this. And even more than this, you've got to listen to call recordings. So when they're doing marketing campaigns with folks like you, they have got to record those calls. It's like your marketing insurance investment policy.
That's what.
You got to know what's going on, right?
So I'm amazed at the number of attorneys, law firm owners who don't listen to calls, who don't even record calls. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things I picked up in the book was that you're recommending that the team listen to the calls, the intake team, so they can help critique each other. Mm-hmm. And what's really important and resonated with me, it's not about being critical, because the critique process is to identify what is also good someone's doing that other team members can learn off of.
Exactly. 100%. Exactly. And
so, yeah.
It's very shocking and scary still. And I'll even emphasize, like we said, 30 years. And I'll be honest with you. I still find it today. Like I could get a phone call today from a prospective law firm, and there's a good chance that they're not recording their calls and that they don't know where to go or how to do it. And they might be spending, $50,000 a week on marketing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. And they're wondering why their conversions are 10%, right?
I know. It's just like, other than playing a real calls that went wrong. So we will point out what worked, but the things that went wrong will be right there. Other than that, there's not a whole lot more you can do to demonstrate it.
That's tremendous stuff. I love it. Tell us, how did you get started in this business?
Well, okay, so I'll just go to this business, the legal business. So,
okay.
I was at Dan Kennedy. I don't know I know you're familiar with Dan, but Dan is a mentor of mine. And I'll say back in the day when Dan used to charge just $6,000 a year, which back then was really a lot of money. I had to go find a credit card. A few of them I could put that on. And, he would do masterminds in his house in the basement in Ohio. Wow. And so I was one of those students. And just through all the years, all the years up until like a few years ago, was in his masterminds. But he's the one that kind of like, I learned the most from. I was able to take everything I already knew and craft it to be sharper and speak more as like direct marketing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Specific to those individuals and at his different conferences. And then some of his masterminds, there were attorneys in there. not a lot, just a couple. And obviously, everybody knows mostly in a mastermind, you're sharing what you need help with. Mm-hmm. And so attorneys heard me, and before you knew it, they were like saying, well, can you do that for us? Can you? And then I started speaking at and it took on a life of its own. And I could keep doing butcher, baker, candlestick maker, or I could just stay in my lane, my new lane, and stay with attorneys.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's pretty similar story to law firm marketing pros. How it goes. So that's yeah. Wasn't Dan Kennedy, but a disciple of Dan Kennedy.
Okay. I could probably name a few, but got it. Yeah.
Right. Got it. So we talk about lawyers being your ideal customer. Can you refine it a little bit for the audience? So, I've got a solo criminal defense attorney. We're going back and forth on the recordings now. He doesn't want to record. I've convinced him to record, but he wants me to sign a non-disclosure, et cetera, and all that's fine. So is that, and he's probably only getting, I don't know, I'll say 20 good quality leads a month right now, because he's just getting started. He didn't even have a website. It's 2023. He doesn't have a website, right? So and listen to in his defense, he's probably late 60s or early 60s and wanting to retire soon, so didn't think he needs it, but he's realizing he's losing a lot of clients to the young up and coming attorneys who are now probably in their mid 40s, right? So is that a client for you, or is that too small?
Oh no, it's definitely a client. It's in criminal. We have, I would say, I don't know, maybe about 20 different criminal law firms. Maybe half of them just do criminal. So yeah, it's definitely a client. It has to be an individual firm, whether it's one person or 50 people or what have you, that just, they're spending the money on the marketing. They want to do better. They will take action. They will implement. And they don't want to lose clients, and they don't want to hurt their reputation. So, there's certain ingredients they need to have, and those are some of them. But 100%, as long as the calls are recorded, and yes, there's an emotional leap that we have to get everybody to actually record, and then permission and everything. But as long as they're recorded, it can be done.
So there's no minimum number of calls. If he's only getting 10 calls a week, or she's only getting 15 calls a week, you're okay with that?
I'm okay. Yeah. 100%.
I love it. Okay.
100%. We've got to get people to be okay with where they are or where they want to go.
Right. Got it. Okay. So as long as they're willing to take action, which, I mentor, and the mentees that don't succeed are the ones that come back week after week after week with the same question, and they don't ever take any action.
Yeah.
That is so important. I agree with you.
Yeah. Those particular folks, it wouldn't work well for them.
Gotcha. Okay. And that makes perfect sense. So, and everyone just ends up frustrated, right?
Right. And, maybe it's not the right time for them.
Right. Good point. So do you have a unique selling proposition, the USP?
Yeah. So, inspect what you expect with call recordings, and provide feedback to your team, and you will improve your conversion minimum by 20%.
Wow. Just that simple advice, right?
Yeah, that's it. I also call it, just to be kind of like an easier way to think about it too, is RMFD: record, monitor, feedback daily.
Love it. Good stuff. Okay, great. Are you doing any like real world aggressive marketing? I know that you spoke recently at PILMA. For those of you who are not familiar with PILMA, that is the Personal Injury Lawyer Marketing and Management Association, or Management and Marketing Association.
Mm-hmm. My aggressive marketing is writing, publishing books, speaking at conferences, and doing podcasts. And the biggest type of marketing that I've always done is never burning my bridges, having an A+ reputation, constant networking, and communication with thought-provoking leaders.
Okay. So give me an example of a thought-provoking leader, and don't say Josh Konigsberg.
I won't say Josh, but so we could say Ken Hardison, Ben Glass,
Okay.
Rem Jackson.
Okay.
Those would be some strong ones. We could say certain attorneys like attorney Steve Wallman. We could say Chad Dudley at Dudley and DeBosier, and Mickey Love that works with Chad, and they have their own consulting firm that focuses on all areas of intake. Those would be a few of them right there. We could say Harlan Schillinger. I mean, Harlan co-authored a book with me.
Okay.
And intake specialist, the unsung heroes of law firms worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the grandfather of, all things beginning with just say marketing. So those would be a few right there.
So when you get to someone like that, because he's a legend, and many of the names that you mentioned are, how do you get them to agree to work with you on a project, whether it be something as simple as doing a podcast like this or writing a book, which is obviously a significantly more time-consuming undertaking?
Yeah. It's 100% about practicing what you preach, really. And so just being authentic, being okay with who I am and what I do and what I'm an expert in, and knowing and believing that there's plenty of business out there. So I wouldn't be acting or sounding like, I'm concerned about somebody else taking my business. And so if I communicate that way and I respect them, then they're enough of a match for me to communicate with them further. And they will hear, like they will hear, okay, what Chris is teaching, we need. And so just having an authentic relationship with them.
Got it. Love it. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to say, obviously as an intake specialist and working across multiple disciplines in law, if you were to say there's a consistent flow of qualified leads through marketing efforts that law firms do, obviously word of mouth is always the best and always going to get the greatest percent conversion rate because they're coming from a trusted source. I see that over and over again. Mm-hmm. And typically when I talk to a law firm, depending, usually somewhere between 75 and 95% conversions when it's a referral. Mm-hmm. Outside, and so we all know that's a good conversion rate. Mm-hmm. I've got clients all over the map with everything else. And some of them, quite frankly, are a disaster on their intake. And I've actually tried to get them to call you with the hesitancy of whatever their obstacle they're putting in their own minds. Mm-hmm. But is there something that you see work? So I'm seeing it all over the map, meaning from what we do to traditional real world marketing to doing workshops and seminars.
Right. Yeah. Are you asking about the conversion?
I'm asking for an attorney listening. Like, would you say that there's something that you see that consistently works best for attorneys in terms of getting qualified leads that are easy to convert?
No, I don't think so. I think that the clients that I work with, I mean, for the most part, the leads that they're getting, they can convert them, but they don't try to convert them. They just throw the money at marketing and the phone rings and they don't pay attention to what's going on. So they'll spend huge sums of money on marketing and little to no effort to convert them.
Well, let's take a deeper dive into that. So you've got a client who's, let's just say, and I'll talk from experience that depending on the size of the firm and the type of the law, okay, digital marketing is going to be the most cost-effective, most efficient, right? Until you get to be a larger, let's say, $3-4 million a year PI firm, and then you're going to start investing in the other traditions. I can dive into estate planning as well and elder law, but so if you're investing, let's say, a few $1,000s a month in your digital marketing efforts and another few thousand, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in Google pay-per-click, right? Phone rings, the answers to the phone, and you're saying that, okay, I've seen clicks as high as in personal injury in certain markets as high as $1,500 for one click. That doesn't even necessarily mean that they've called, right?
Right. A click.
So just for the click, but that's an anomaly. But let's just say the click was $250. So you're saying that the attorneys are not paying attention to how Susie's answering the phone. She was hired. She was trained. This is what you say. Welcome to ABC Law. This is Susie from ABC Law Firm. How can I help you? And they stop there.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. The majority of the Susies are order takers.
So that's what you mean by an order taker.
Question, answer. It's their mindset. So if you asked Susie, if you just kind of tapped her on the shoulder and you asked her, hey, by the way, what's the desired outcome of what you do?
Right.
She wouldn't know what to say. I mean, honestly, she wouldn't know what to say, or another type of Susie might say something like, just handle the calls and just get them to the right person. Just that's what I do.
Right.
So they don't know what the real desired outcome of what they're doing is. And the main reason is because they weren't hired to be selling. They're not trained to be selling. They're still answering the phone as the receptionist at huge law firms. Intake is still playing reception plus intake.
So describe then the difference between what you would think is a receptionist and an intake specialist.
A receptionist is the first impression of the firm, the business.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. That's it. They answer the phone, and they transfer they get that person quickly to the right person that they need to get to.
Okay, so if I'm a small 2-partner, 3-employee firm, obviously there's going to be a paralegal, there's going to be someone answering the phone, right? So is that person answering the phone, the receptionist, also then become the intake specialist for a smaller firm?
That's what they do.
Right.
But we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, your business model needs to be looked differently, or I mean, you didn't really think it through when you decided to be in business, right?
Yeah.
So, just you have your receptionist, and then you have however many people you have on your team, and let them be experts at what they do, and have a full-time intake specialist. And if you're afraid that they might not have enough work to do initially, there's plenty of sales kinds of work that they can do.
Right.
I mean, they can call your past clients and stay in touch with them and get new business and referrals. They can call your established clients. There's always a problem with attorneys and paralegals actually doing the follow-up that they're supposed to do with established clients. So they can just do check-ins with them. They can call, help you create a referral program with other law firms. So there's all kinds of things that they can do that are sales related. So
do you coach that as well, or train that as well as part of your firm? Okay. Yes. That's tremendous, because you're talking about multiple touch points that really are neglected.
Oh yeah.
By and large, right?
100%. What we really want to do, Josh, is that accept the fact, truly accept it, that intake is a 24/7 sales team. Whatever size your firm is, it's 24/7. It's not like 8 to 5. It's evenings. It's weekends, and it's when firms finally embrace that, everything else will fall into place.
So, and I see this all the time where they don't have 24/7 answering, as if people don't get DUIs at night, or there's not a domestic violence situation at night, right? So, and it goes on and on, right?
So, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, is there? Well, I recently discovered that there's about 60% of all law firms are less than $500,000 a year in revenue.
Okay.
So then let's take that and assume that below $250,000 a year, there's probably, of that 60%, probably more than half of that is at 250. How do you help a $250,000 a year law firm where the attorney is probably not even making $100,000 a year? How can they afford to hire an intake specialist?
Well, so again, I mean, I think one of the most important things is to look at that person as all things selling.
Right.
And so not just like the calls that are coming in. If it's just by the calls that are coming in, then you're going to have a hard time to accept that. But it's, think of it as selling everything that has to do with sales or retention or business. If you just focus on that, all your chats, all your web forms, all your email leads, all the ones that got missed and not just got missed, but missed to even check up on what happened with it. So all things leads in selling. If you do that, you'll be fine. It'll be good.
So, and if you think about it this way, if you get the person and they start doing some other things for you within a month or two, well, first of all, you probably will improve your conversions immediately, because we know that something like 95% of all calls that are not returned within the first 5 minutes, missed calls, are already going to somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
So you'll probably increase your conversions within the first 30 days, thus paying for that support staff, that intake specialist that you're bringing on.
Exactly. And, not everything is, lines up perfectly. So the first thing you need to do is have the mindset of how I can make X work versus why it won't.
Right.
So if you think that way first, okay, here's my situation. Here's the people that I have. How can I make this work? You'll figure it out. You won't have any mental blocks for it. And so if Susie or John is answering the phone and they're handling intake, but there's some other miscellaneous things that they're doing, as long as you, the leader, the owner, have the mindset that they are selling and they know that, they're not like, what do you mean? You didn't tell me that. As long as that's all lined up, everything will work out. And like you said, you'll be able to invest in another person and another person and another person, right?
And investment's the exact right word.
It's exactly right. It's about your business.
That's right.
And it also, the other thing too is that is a mistake is we don't think of intake as marketing. And marketing and intake are the same. They're the same team. They are the sales team. We've got marketing, intake, they're together.
That's right.
And if they are communicated that way, if they're on the checklist that way, when you have a marketing campaign, again, everything will line up.
That's so well said. Let's go the other direction and talk about firms that are larger, the over $500,000 a year and all the way up to, I've got some firms that are doing really, really well. Not to talk about specific numbers, but so in the book, you talk about some of the recordings that you listen to, and I call them funny, not funny, right? So, and I've heard some myself. Can you share a couple stories that are just kind of mind blowing on, I just recently listened to one, and if you can believe it, the intake person, if that's what you want to call them, actually said to the potential client that, oh, you're probably too far away from our office. So you should probably call somebody else.
Right.
Right. Now, why would they make that determination that, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. One call, and this was an attorney, because this particular firm still has attorneys handling intake, as well as being a practicing attorney. And the attorney said, you know what, don't cry over spilt milk. I'm not kidding you.
What's the term that I'm looking for? It's the opposite of empathy, right?
I mean, yeah, right. It was that was a big conversation, but I'll also hear intake team members and attorneys that are handling those roles, or even client calls, to be honest with you. We listen to those too, yelling at the prospective client or the client, yelling at them. And I am so busy. You have no idea what I've been through today. I've had so many calls before you. I don't have time for this. If you don't know what you need, there is another law firm that you can call. In fact, I'll give you the name and the phone number.
Unbelievable. So when you start to listen to these calls, and again, it's easy to focus on what people are doing wrong.
Right.
And some of it's funny, not funny, but I also like the fact that in the book you talk about catching people doing things right.
Yeah.
And how important that is. Can you talk about that very briefly?
Just mindset of, again, if you focus on, I want to find out what they're doing right, you'll find it. So just listen to the call. It might be the tone of voice. It might be empathy that was provided. It might be using the person's name in the conversation. You'll always find something that's working, and you want to identify it and you want to recognize it and then redirect to the opportunities.
Right. Love it. Okay. What would you say to a lawyer who is trying to take their law firm to the next level? So when they come to you and when they come to me, typically when they come to me, it's because they want to grow, whether they've never, in the case that I mentioned earlier, didn't even ever have a website, or they're unhappy with their existing digital marketing provider, which is the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Feel as though they can be getting more qualified leads, et cetera, et cetera. So what would you say specific for you, who's trying to get their law firm to the next level?
I would suggest looking at hiring a virtual intake team, like create your own virtual intake team. And I do support overseas. There's great people that want jobs and need jobs. But the other thing too that I've noticed is they really want to work. They want to work and they want to do hard work and they want to do well. So definitely hiring virtual, because I think that the way the market is, there's more opportunity for people that want to work virtual than there is the people that don't. And that kind of came with COVID, but it is what it is. So you take a look at it, and the opportunity to save money also would be overseas. And so let's take a look at that. Let's see how we can build a virtual team where you're saving money, but you're improving conversion at the same time. And you're not just keeping the people that you have and then being in a situation where you can't even handle those calls. For whatever the reason is, there is an answer. You can even just test it, but you don't want to just keep stuck with, all of a sudden you're supposed to have 15 people and you have 6 people, and then you have a call center or an answering service that's handling those calls and they're doing a lousy job. Let's create your own. Why do you need to have that answering service or that call center? I mean, it can work, but there's a lot of work for you to do to maintain it. Why not look at doing your own?
Oh, describe for the audience what would that look like? And I'm envisioning. Well, geez, again, I'm not that big of a law firm. I like the idea that I can save money, so I could probably hire a VA for a couple $1,000s a month, right? Mm-hmm. Well, $1,500 a month from my experience doing it. I live in South Florida, so I know I'm not far from Miami. So if I were to go to South America, the accent would be very similar to the accents that we sound in Miami, right? So although I've got a significant number of Filipinos working for us, and most of them speak perfect English. So, so what would that look like? So would it be somebody in their home with a Ring Central headset? What does it look like?
Yeah, so you can definitely do it that way. They're working from their home. And you could also have, let's just say you're focusing on a certain market area, whether it's Philippines or what have you. You could have an office there, and these individuals go to that office and they work at that office. And the reason why you do that is because it's the same idea. It's getting them out of the house and into a business environment.
Okay.
So you just have that office space, and maybe you have a leader there that manages that, and then you manage the whole thing. Or again, they can be at home. But the thing is, the key is, so again, I think a lot of owners feel like, okay, there's another answer. I'll just check it, and you can't do that. So you have to check references. You have to hire the right people. You have to you have to go through a whole hiring process and predictive indexing and all of that. You've got to, so everything that you're not doing now, when you hire people to work in your office, you still have to do it, even if you have virtual people.
Right.
So you can't like just say, oh, that's the answer. You still have to do it. But I think like when you go after the right people, and there are some great services out there that are run by attorneys that, like Brett Tremblay or, Jason Melton, that will help you find people for law firms. So you just have to, do all the right steps, but you still have to check calls, and you still have to inspect, and you still have to train. And, there's no silver bullet. You have to do the hard work.
Right. And it's funny, especially for I'll say my generation. It's hard because, the hiring process for me as a lifelong entrepreneur was always going with the gut, right? Go with the gut. And you mentioned predictive index. We use Colby, and the transition from going with the gut to going with Colby's right on. It's, every time without fail, it's right on. So when we get the right, to talk about entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, when you get, the right ass in the right seat, magic happens, right? And that's where you use that. So for those of you out there listening who are not using these tools, highly recommend investing the time. And this is all about investing in the future of your business.
Right. And that's the word, investing. It's doing a marketing investment. And there's many things that are on that same level that you got to check all the boxes to get the best results.
Right. As I like to say, how many hours did you spend in law school and learning marketing?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And it's the exact same number of hours that they spent on intake, right?
100%.
That's right.
Or even empathy. They don't even talk about empathy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So just to wrap it up, are there any additional nuggets of wisdom that you might be able to impart to our audience?
I think that the most important and the easiest to do that's really at your fingertips is call recording. If you don't have it, whether it's Ring Central or CallRail, or I don't know, Josh, if you provide that to folks, but
we do.
Just do the call recording. I know that it's scary thinking about listening to the calls, and you don't want to deal with that, but you can't stick your head in the sand anymore. Right. And so if you got to continue to do marketing, which you are, you got to get this right. So just call recordings and listen to them. Once you get going, it'll be easier for you. And then take that information, and however it works for you, get the information to the team member or team members that are converting. And then the only other is your mindset. You need a mindset shift. There's no silver bullets. Your business needs a sales team, and it's intake, and it's 24/7.
And you have to put in the work.
Yeah, it's hard work. You can't just say, okay, this works, and I'm going to do it, and then everything will be okay. That's not working right now, everybody, right? So,
right, that's right. Well, that was great, Chris. I really appreciate your time today. It's wonderful learning from you. You have just so much knowledge and wisdom. It's tremendous. And where can the audience find you online? If they you had mentioned to me earlier that they could download a free copy of the book as a PDF. I know it's available on Amazon. That's where I bought my copy. So,
right.
So how can they find you?
They can just go to intakeacademy.com, and our phone number is there, 603-249-5878.
Okay.
The free book link is on there, and my email, chris@intakeacademy.com. It's that easy.
There you go. So if you want to get to Chris directly, there you go. That's awesome. All right, well, we're going to sign off for now. It's Josh Konigsberg, Law Firm Marketing Pros, with the Behind the Bench podcast. Bye for now.
Calling everyone.
Thanks for listening to another fabulous episode of Behind the Bench. I hope you take action on some insight and tips you learned today. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share.